Hello YouTube, my name is Sean and I have Asperger's syndrome. I was diagnosed as an adult at the age of 30. In fact, it was only a few days ago. I've suspected this about myself for some time, but I didn't want to do anything like making this video until I had a positive diagnosis. I've decided to make a series of videos about the difficulties I face as a result of having Asperger's and the strategies I use to overcome them. In reading about autism spectrum disorders over the last few months, I learned a couple of things that really saddened me. One is that there is a very high unemployment rate among ASD individuals, and another is that we often have trouble attending or completing university. I think I have something to offer the ASD community in that I have been to uni and got really good marks. It was often quite difficult for me, some days were really bad, but I got through. I even did some work as a tutor, both one-on-one and in front of a class. Since finishing uni, I've gotten a job with an awesome company. It promises to be a rewarding career and is closely related to some of my special interests. There are some things I still struggle with at work, but I do a good enough job that I keep getting asked to come back. Working life is something I used to really struggle with, especially as a teenager and in my early 20s. I did lose a lot of jobs before I figured out what I had to do to keep them. I would like to share with you guys the things that have worked for me and maybe some of the things that haven't worked for me in terms of university life, working life and Aspie life in general. This is my first video, so you'll have to excuse me if it is not very well structured or recorded. I've never done anything like this before. Before I did this video, I thought a bit about what I wanted to say and I wrote a script to read out and rehearsed it a few times. So if it seems like what I'm saying is rehearsed, that's because it is. I thought about doing this off the cuff, but I feel that wouldn't do the concept justice. I'm also reading this from a computer screen, so if you notice me looking away a lot, that is why. I think that's enough of an introduction, so I'll get into the main part of the video. What I'm going to talk about is the idea of an emotional toolbox. I got the idea from this book, The Complete Guide to Asperger's Syndrome by Tony Attwood. If you have Asperger's, or think you might, I would highly recommend it. Same goes if one of your friends or family members has Asperger's, or thinks that they might. I would also highly recommend this book. Been there, done that, try this. This book changed my life and helped me a long way on the road to accepting exactly who I am. Anyway, the Emotional Toolkit is something I use to chill myself out when I'm feeling anxious, depressed, angry, or otherwise stressed out. When I feel like that, it's very easy for me to just sit there and stew in those negative emotions, but that just makes it worse and is really very unpleasant. If I'm at work, I can use some of these techniques to get back in the zone and to be as productive as possible. In the book, there are a number of different categories, and the ones I'm going to talk about are the physical, relaxation, social, thinking, and special interest tools. Some of my tools belong clearly in one category or another, but some may cross those boundaries, so I'll tell you a bit about each of them in turn. I've actually gone to the trouble to print them out as business card size bits of paper, which I then laminated. So if I have gotten to the point that I can't think clearly, all I need to do is look through my toolkit and find the appropriate tool. I don't have to think about it. I knock them up at work too, so please don't tell my boss. First of all, I have the physical tools. They are go for a run, do some weights, and hit my punching bag. I don't know about you, but as an Aspie, I often find myself filled with oceans of intense emotion which have to escape, and if they don't, it hurts. For me, this is usually caused by anxiety, confusion, and frustration. In those sorts of situations, I use the physical tools. After going for a long run, or a short run up a big hill, or doing a big weight session or a few rounds on the punching bag, my body is full of endorphins that make me feel good. By the time I've finished the workout, I've been focused on that workout for so long that I usually forget what I was upset about to begin with, and I feel a sense of accomplishment for having completed the task I set out to do. For me personally, these are some of the most effective tools in my toolkit. I would also like to point out here that I do exercise regularly, whether I'm feeling down or not. Keeping active and fit seems to increase my tolerance for those things that make life difficult. I especially like exercising before work. The endorphin rush is a great way to start the day, and it gives me an elevated mood, which depending on the amount of and intensity of exercise can last all day. The next one is a social tool. I only have one social tool, and that is patting my cat. I always pat and play with my cat for 5 to 10 minutes when I get home every day. It really chills me out, and I think the cat likes it too. Next are my relaxation tools. They are saving humanity from an alien menace, picking some oysters, and reading a book. The first one is about Mass Effect, shoot 'em up, alien killing sort of video game. It's a bit old now, but I've only just gotten into it. I find a good video game is a great way to zone out from the world's troubles and just relax. The second one is pretty self-explanatory, but I will go into a little more detail. There's a place near where I live where I go to pick oysters. It's somewhat isolated, so I hardly ever see any people there. And I just walk among the rocks and I concentrate on finding the biggest, juiciest oysters and eating them. It's very peaceful, and I really focus on finding those biggest, juiciest oysters. So it's a bit like meditating, and I'm sure it's very good for me since it's about as fresh as seafood can get. The third one is also very self-explanatory, but I would like to add that I read for about an hour before bed every night. Not from a screen either, but from a good old-fashioned book. I used to have trouble with insomnia, and reading before bed seems to help a great deal with that. My last two tools fall in the category of thinking and special interest tools. This one is build a spreadsheet, and it refers to building a pointless spreadsheet in Microsoft Excel. If I'm feeling a bit stressed out at work, I can take some time out to make a pointless spreadsheet. I usually start with a column of random numbers, and then in the next column I might take the square root of those numbers and then multiply them all by 9, and so on across the spreadsheet. The size and complexity of these spreadsheets is directly proportional to the level of emotion I'm feeling at the time. I absolutely love Excel, and I enjoy using it, whether it is related to a work task or not. So that is why this one for me is a special interest tool. If I spend a couple of minutes working on one of these pointlessly complicated spreadsheets, it is like having a couple of hours sleep for me. Like some of the physical tools I mentioned, it sort of puts me in a trance, and whatever was stressing me out melts away into nothing. The other tool I would like to talk about here is do some maths or learn something new. And this is one that I often do on my lunch break, and I also do every night after dinner. I go on to Khan Academy and do some maths problems. There's a link in the description if you want to check it out. I love maths, so that's why this one is a special interest as well as a thinking tool. Maths is routine and predictable, so I find it soothing. Because I'm good at maths, I get lots of the questions right, and that makes it a boost to my self-esteem too. Last but not least is my paper cranes. I lied before when I said there was only two more. This is the last one. I haven't made a card for this one, I just forgot. So I made a crane especially for this video so I can show you. This is another good one for me to do at work. If I need time to think about something, or if I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed because of sensory issues or whatever, I just get a piece of paper and make a crane. I've been making these since I was 8, so I can just about do it with my eyes shut. The process is the same every time, so again it is routine and predictable and therefore soothing. I have a big pile of these on my desk at work, and sometimes people move them around to other spots. So I like to think of it as the birds are migrating or finding a new home. Anyway, I think that about does it. I hope you liked my first video. I don't know how often I will be putting them up, but I have something of a list in mind of things that I would like to cover, and I am open to suggestions. And if you like the idea of the Emotional Toolkit, or if you're already using one yourself, why don't you share your tools with other people who might watch this video, because mine might not be right for everyone. There might be some things that you don't have access to. Not everyone has a punching bag, not everyone knows how to make paper cranes, but maybe the thing that you do to calm yourself down will help to calm someone else's down and improve the quality of life for, some other person somewhere else in the world. And that's what this video and this whole channel is all about. So thanks for watching.